Past to the Present has been presenting links to the past since the year 2000. Over the years, we've worked hard to present stories about Montgomery County's rich history. And you know, some of those are worth seeing again. We've combed our archives for segments to repackage for you today. So sit back, relax while we rewind. In the summer of 1863, there was a big to-do in Rockville. That's when Confederate General JEB Stuart arrived in Rockville, creating quite a stir. In June of 2003, Peerless Rockville sponsored a weekend of living history in order to bring these Civil War events to life, and our cameras were there. Let's take a look back at that weekend of history and commemoration. Looking around, you'll see soldiers, both Union and Confederate, cavalry, infantry, artillery, and musicians. Everyone is dressed and outfitted as they would have been 140 years ago. One of Rockville's claims to fame during the Civil War was hosting Confederate General JEB Stuart as he headed to meet General Robert E. Lee in Pennsylvania. At that time, many in Montgomery County sympathized with the Confederacy. Having this notorious rebel in their midst was quite an honor. Some speculate that Stuart's stopover here may have affected the outcome at Gettysburg. According to a letter written by Union sympathizer Dora Higgins, General Stuart rode into town with 5,000 troops. While here, they helped themselves to supplies, arrested Union sympathizers, and caroused with the residents. To bring these events to life, Peerless Rockville sponsored a weekend of living history on June 14th and 15th. Behind me is the culminating event of this commemoration, a reenactment of some of the interactions between Rockville residents and the famous general. Let's watch.
Is Mr. Dawson here?
Yeah.
Is Judge Bowie here?
I'm ready.
Lieutenant Wilkes, do you have the list? I have forgotten the name.
Mr. Higgins, come out, please. Gentlemen, precede us, please.
You can't take my daddy!
During the day, the rebels brought in 600 prisoners, colored men, soldiers, and citizens, and put them in the courthouse. I thought verily they would tear the whole of the inside of the courthouse. Their yells were terrific on each fresh arrival of prisoners.
What you saw today was just part of General Stuart's, Confederate General Stuart's route to Gettysburg to catch up with the Army of Northern Virginia, which was already in Pennsylvania. After crossing at Browser's Ford, which he was forced to do because he couldn't pass behind the Union Army, or he did pass behind the Union Army. But after crossing Browser's Ford, the route via Rockville to Pennsylvania was the most direct route that he could choose. And while he was in Rockville, he took the opportunity to gather up the wagon train and as many other horses and things as he could, and entertain himself as well as he could for the short 4 hours that he was in Rockville.
Writer and historian Charles Jacobs has studied Civil War activities in Montgomery County.
In my opinion, the majority of the citizens of Rockville, were pro-South. And like the girls in the female academy, they would have been happy to see him here without thinking of the long term. But for the short term, to have these Confederates ride into town was very impressive, and they would have loved to see it because many of the people here had sons in the Confederate Army. And to them, to have Stuart, General Stuart, riding into town with all of his troopers would have been a glorious feeling that here, my gosh, my kid's in this army, and here are some representatives from that army. So I would say that He was well received by most, but not all.
In addition to this history lesson, the weekend was filled with all kinds of period presentations, as well as a chance to see Civil War era dress, to listen to music typical of that time period, and to watch a baseball game as it would have been played in 1863. For this game, a leather ball is used with a bat that doesn't exceed 2.5 inches in diameter. 4 bases are arranged in a square, 60 feet apart. The thrower, or pitcher, throws the ball overhand in a gentle manner. As in today's game, the striker or the batter gets 3 chances to hit the ball and must run to the first base if he does. Outs are achieved in the same way they are today, with one interesting addition. A player is out if he is hit with the ball while off base, a strategy known as plugging. Teams change sides after only 1 out, not like 3 of today. After an hour and a half, time is called, and the team with the most tallies or runs wins. This weekend's game matched Peerless Rockville against historic Tacoma. Local dignitaries paired with youth baseball leagues to form the teams. After more than 25 innings, Peerless defeated Tacoma. During the game, we caught up with Eileen McGuckian, Executive Director of Peerless Rockville, the event's sponsoring organization. She explains a lot of careful planning contributed to the success of this weekend.
We did a rehearsal last year in June of 2002, and after that we decided we definitely would do this year. We started with a reenactor coordinator who would start getting reenactors who were interested. We started with a planning committee which is met every month, and of course we've upped that to every 2 weeks and then every week towards the end. So we've been planning for this for about 9 months, I guess.
Why all this work? Eileen says it wasn't just about dressing up for an afternoon.
But it's putting a personal face on it, and that's the idea, not just to have history be books that you read, but actually that even though this national war was raging all around us, here you have people who are trying to live their lives, who are trying to start a school system, who are trying to start a government because Rockville was newly incorporated, and trying to keep their town together because they knew that the war would be over and they'd have to go back to living together again and acting as a community again.
A highlight of the weekend was an old-fashioned town square concert by Federal City Brass Band, complete with period instruments. Let's listen. Living history is complete without reenactors. The reenactors set up camps on the grounds of the Bell Dawson House, home of the Montgomery County Historical Society. Sergeant Jamie Rife explains how authentic reenactors attempt to be.
What we do with the uniforms, different ladies who have actually spent a lot of time doing research at museums will go and examine period patterns, the real thing in museums, and derive patterns from that and manufacture our clothing for us. So we try to do it within reason. We try to keep our camp as authentic as possible. In the Civil War, most soldiers, of course, when they were on campaign, just slept under the open stars with their blankets. However, in camp, with weather as it is or has been lately, it's necessary to have shelter because we're not acclimated as most farm boys were in the 1860s. Also, just when the weather turns inclement, we absolutely need shelter because we have full day jobs we have to go to on Monday mornings. So, but we try to do it within reason, but we try to go as authentic as we possibly can.
Another special moment of this weekend was the inauguration of a statewide historical tourism effort. Historian and author Susan Soderberg explains.
The name of the trail is the Gettysburg Campaign, Invasion and Retreat, and it's made up of a series of signs, and also a map brochure, which you can pick up at Visitor Center or battlefield sites and other places. And this explains how the Gettysburg invasion occurred by the Confederates, how they were followed by the Union troops through Montgomery County and up through Maryland. And then it also covers the retreat of the Confederate troops, and they were followed by the Union troops after the Battle of Gettysburg. Some people just want to see a few sites, maybe the sites in their vicinity. They want to know what went on where they live or around their neighborhood. There are other people who want to follow the whole trail. They want to start where the Confederates invaded up in Williamsport, or at Edwards Ferry where the Union troops came across on 2 pontoon bridges over 3 days. They want to follow in the footsteps of the troops as they went toward this 3-day terrible battle at Gettysburg.
All in all, it was a series of days filled with information and fun, designed to connect Montgomery County residents to their past. It looks like it worked.
I wanted to do it because I wanted to live back I wanted to try out living back in the centuries of the Civil War. The part that I admire is like how they fight and stuff, and what they did back then, and how they watched what they did, but not today. They didn't have electricity back then, so they used candles and stuff.
A few things have changed since that show last aired. Eileen McGuckian stepped down from her post with Peerless Rockville, although she remains active in keeping Montgomery County history alive. On a sadder note, author and historian Charles Jacobs passed away in 2008. For 4 decades, Mr. Jacobs and his wife Marion extensively researched Civil War activity in our area. Their work was presented in the 1996 book, Civil War Guide to Montgomery County. While Mr. Jacobs' death came before the start of the sesquicentennial Civil War commemoration, his legacy is remembered with a reissue of his seminal book. Well, that's it for this show. I'm Gail Street. Thank you for watching.
When the issue is keeping your family or dining guests free from foodborne illness, who can you turn to for U.S. Department of Agriculture approved food safety information? If you're online, go ask Karen. I think she'll know.
AskKaren.gov is our virtual food safety expert. Just type in a question and you'll get an immediate, automated response on dozens of issues. We've programmed the website to respond to the questions that people are most likely to ask, and to answer with the best ways to keep foodborne illness from ruining their day. For example, you might type, "Is it safe to refreeze food?" Click on Ask, and there's your answer. It is safe, but may cause quality concerns. Another one might be, "Will E. coli be killed by freezing?" And you'll learn that freezing does not destroy these bacteria. E. coli 0157H7 survives refrigerator and freezer temperatures.
Along with answering your question, Ask Karen will also show you related questions it answers. You'll also get the chance to rate how well your question was answered.
We want to be sure the messages are working to reduce foodborne illness. We update the information regularly with the most current science-based information. That can be particularly important when food safety outbreaks occur.
The experts are also available by phone at 1-888-MP hotline, Monday through Friday from 10 to 4 Eastern. AskKaren.gov is a 24/7 service. In Beltsville, Maryland, for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I'm Pat O'Leary.